What's going on, everyone? Alex Miller from the Eagle, joined with Travis L. Brown. Day 3 of the SEC Media Days were today, and Jimbo Fisher, DeMarvin Leal, and Kenyon Green were the representatives from Texas A&M that took center stage at the Winfrey Hotel. You know, there's a lot of question marks about A&M's offensive line and the quarterbacks, but the big story of the day was really not even about A&M, but it kind of was, because our friend Brent Zorneman from the Houston Chronicle reporting that Texas and Oklahoma have expressed interest to join the SEC. Travis, you've been there all day in the middle of it. You know, just kind of recap and give us a feel of where everything is right now, because this kind of came out of left field, honestly.
Sure, sure. I first want to start out with saying that everything I'm about to say is going to be magical and wonderful because my iPad is resting on Paul Feinbaum's radio desk. So, I mean, it's just going to flow from me right now. We're here at the Winfrey Hotel, of course, in Hoover, Alabama, where they're having SEC Media Days and a little bit of the behind the scenes. And, of course, great job by our buddy Brent Zorneman on his 14th wedding anniversary, no less. Breaking some big news. Me and Robert Cessna sitting on the same row as him, and then all of a sudden he freaks out and grabs his laptop and just runs out of the ballroom. And of course, I'm thinking, well, maybe is he getting like a one-on-one with Jimbo Fisher? So I grab my stuff and I start trying to hunt him down. And I spent like an hour and a half trying to hunt Brent Zorneman down. And the next thing you know, on Twitter, as the same time everyone else saw it, it exploded that there's this report that the SEC is, or excuse me, Oklahoma and Texas are looking at, had put feelers out there to try to join the SEC, according to a college football insider that talked to the Houston Chronicle, and that a potential announcement could be made within a couple weeks of their joining. Now, there's several parts to this that are interesting. Well, first, let's talk about the fact that Greg Sankey, I ran over and we asked Greg Sankey on what his comments on this, and he said he has no comments on this speculation. And we got to talk with A&M Athletic Director Ross Bjork, who was here with the traveling party from A&M, talking to walking around the players. So real quick, if you'll allow me, Alex, here, I will play. Let me share my screen. I will play.
Travis is going to play audio on Ross Bjork's comments on Texas and Oklahoma potentially joining.
Are we hearing it now?
College athletics is changing. Clearly it's changing, right? And so to me, a lot of that sort of chum in the water is the changes in college athletics, where people can speculate and do certain things. And so, again, I haven't read the article, but that's, if you're asking me to kind of comment about college athletics, it's changing. So what does that look like? We don't know. But I know how we feel about the SEC and about being the only program in the state of Texas in the SEC. And that's all I can say right now. So, because I don't know anything else.
And you had no
had no idea. But that's sort of something out there. Nope.
What was your initial reaction when your president?
She just heard about the article the same time I did. So she was calling to say, hey, have you seen this article? No, I haven't seen it yet. And I was trying to pull it up as I was on the phone. So
she didn't know.
That was it.
She had not known.
The article popped as we're all standing here. So.
What does that say about Texas and Oklahoma and the SEC that this could happen behind the scenes like this without?
I would ask Texas and Oklahoma.
Sure.
Yeah. So
Great thing.
We, as athletic directors, we haven't talked about it. So I think it just goes to what I said to him about the future of college athletics. Like, there's just a lot of things that are unknown right now, and I think this type of environment fuels those kind of stories. So that's all I know. Like I said, we want to be the only SEC program in the state of Texas. There's a reason why Texas A&M left the Big 12. To be standalone, to have our own identity, and that's our feeling.
Is there any language as such?
I'm not aware of anything. I'm not aware of anything. So, yep.
Thanks, Rob.
All right.
That was
Yeah, go ahead, Travis.
Yeah, that was Texas A&M athletic director Ross Bjork talking just a little bit about, and what he was mentioning there. Was the fact that he was standing out here talking with some of us and had to take a phone call, ran off. It was actually Catherine Banks, the new A&M president, who was calling him saying, "Have you seen this article?" And that was kind of the first he said he heard about it. So of course, minutes after this started dropping, Jimbo Fisher went on the main stage here at SEC Media Days, and down the line of things, he was asked about this, and someone said, "Do you have any thoughts about Texas and OU wanting to come in the Big 12?" And he said, "Of course they want to come in the Big 12 because, the Big 12, the SEC, because this is the most powerful conference in college football." And that being said, that's kind of the reaction that happened today. Most of the A&M players didn't really bite on talking if they necessarily wanted to play these teams or not. If you look in the SEC bylaws, what would have to happen is they'd have to be issued a formal invitation by the chief executive officers of the SEC, which is the SEC presidents and some athletic directors. And after that process, there would have to be a vote of 3/4 the membership in favor of bringing any new members in, which I talked to Ross Bjork, we believe would be about 10 members voting yes. And Alex, I know we'll probably get into a little bit more pontificating on the merits or the possibilities of this happening, but it's been a wild day, a lot of running around. I've reached out to Texas and OU communications, as well as Texas athletic director Chris Del Conte, and haven't heard back from them yet on anything like that. But we'll see. It made things very interesting today.
Yeah, obviously Brent was the first one to break this news, but other people and journalists involved in college sports, they've been reaching out to their sources. The collective feeling, it seems, among Brent's reporting, others reporting, is that this has kind of been in the works behind the shadows for a while. And obviously, there's a lot of television contracts that are going to be coming up here in the next couple of years. So maybe it's not necessarily surprising that a giant like Texas and a blue blood like Oklahoma are already trying to get ahead of things and see what kind of possibilities there could be. And like you said, what better conference to be in than the SEC? But as we know, this is not going to be an easy process if, in fact, Texas and Oklahoma do end up becoming members of this SEC.
And there were some rumblings about this from the Oklahoma perspective at Big 12 Media Days last week, talking about some of these kinds of issues about Oklahoma maybe wanting to find a new home. And Texas, of course, kind of added on to the storyline today. There's a lot of hurdles, though, because first off, let's talk about the fact that the Texas is still under contract with the Longhorn Network through, I believe it's 2030, but
2031.
We can definitely look at 2031. And of course, the SEC has with the SEC Network. If Texas were to come over, there would be an issue there. How do they negotiate? It is the same company; it's both ESPN, but there's money to be had there. And how is that going to necessarily work out? Because the SEC Network, the Longhorn Network, to a lot of people, is what maybe forced A&M and Missouri to want to run over to the SEC, or at least leave the Big 12 for the greener pastures of the SEC. And so I bet you most people would want that to coexist with the SEC Network. Then you look at in Oklahoma, there's always been the talk, and even from some of the legal standpoint, of the fact that Oklahoma wants Oklahoma and Oklahoma State together in the same conference. And what that situation would bring in the Oklahoma side of these things. And then you look and you kind of try to look across how this would work out. And would there be 10 teams that would vote yes to this in the SEC? Because you got to think that A&M, Missouri, Arkansas are no's, because the whole reason they escaped was to get away from Texas and their issues that they had. And then you have the possibility that Alabama and Auburn would go over to the East. So schools like Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, they wouldn't want to have to play Alabama every year. And you're already above the 4-team no threshold that they would have to get a positive vote. And so yes, there's politics. Yes, there's people that say, and administrations that say, hey, do this to scratch our back and we'll scratch your back, and things like that can happen. But even just at the 3/4 vote, I see it as a non-starter right now. And there is talks too of, it's not in any of the SEC bylaws. There's kind of always been this gentleman's agreement that's been reported frequently about if there is a school already in the SEC membership in a state, that they have to get clearance from that school to add another school in that state. And that goes back to the talks when they thought Florida State might leave the ACC for the SEC in about 2012, and talking that they kind of had this rumors of this gentleman's agreement that Florida would have to agree to let Florida State in for the SEC to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Just looking at the logistics of it, I mean, one, it's not surprising that this is a thing, but it seems like a long shot when you consider things on both sides of the equation. But obviously, there's smoke, and where there's smoke, there's usually a fire. So
Where there's smoke, there's usually Brent Zorneman.
yeah, I saw a Photoshop of Brent Zwerneman on Twitter today, from some fine folks at Good Bull Hunting. I won't say what it was because I don't think it's appropriate, but
wasn't it the Kim Kardashian picture?
I mean, I wasn't gonna say it, but you can.
Yeah, it's the Kim Kardashian picture. It's tactfully edited for the most part.
Right.
It's tactfully edited, but it has his face on it, and says Brent Zorneman breaking the internet. And he definitely broke SEC media days there for a couple hours with people just running around like crazy people trying to track people down to get some answers.
Well, this is definitely a story that we'll be following in the days and the weeks to come. Travis, let's kind of shift gears though and actually discuss some ball maybe and what A&M, Jimbo Fisher, DeMarvin, and Kenyon came to speak on today. What were some of the main storylines you heard from those three?
Well, and even the other thing that broke kind of today that had some effect with Jimbo Fisher is the fact that there was reports that former Florida State head coach Bobby Bowden has been diagnosed with a terminal illness. And so, of course, Jimbo Fisher always says that people joke that he was just another member of the Bowden family with how much time he spent there working with the coaches and staying at their house and things like that. And so he had some kind words and said, asked for everyone there to pray for the Bowden family. And Bobby Bowden also brought up R.C. Slocum, who's going through his own battles with cancer right now. And that kind of started off his talk. Also wish Chris Middleton congratulations for winning an NBA title last night, and congratulated and well wished the Aggie Olympians that are heading over to Tokyo. So that was a major part of that. It's kind of funny because there wasn't a whole lot of questions, especially to the A&M players, because they were the last team of the day today, and everyone was so frantically trying to chase down this OU Texas story today. And so, a lot of talk about how both quarterbacks have really impressed and they don't really know. And a lot of talk about how important guys like Isaiah Spiller, Jalen Weidemeyer, Devon Achane, even some of the wideouts are going to be to those young quarterbacks as security blankets moving forward. Some good conversation with Kenyon Green about the offensive line and some of the guys that are going to step up and how he feels like they will be able to be successful this year despite losing 4 starters. So a lot of that normal kind of talk. Something that I know came out at the coaches school on Sunday but was asked a lot about again is Caleb Chapman and his health. He's 100% after suffering that knee injury last year towards the end of the Florida game. And that was another guy that Jimbo Fisher actually called out by name several times when talking about real good security blankets for these young quarterbacks is Caleb Chapman and how well he came on and the expectations that they had for him moving forward. So that was most of the talk from the A&M stuff. I know I will be honest, both me and Robert Sessa less, but I know me, I was focused on turning that story around. So I wasn't able to listen as intently as I would like, but if you check theeagle.com tonight, pick up your copy of the Eagle tomorrow. We will have reviewed the tape. We'll have some great content for what the A&M players said and what was going on here at Media Days beyond just that breaking story of Texas and OU.
Well, and it seemed as if one big question that Jimbo kept getting asked about was kind of in reference to his comments about Nick Saban in Alabama at the Houston Touchdown Club a few weeks ago, and just, trying to catch and beat Alabama. And, whether or not some people took those comments a little out of context or not, I think the fact still stands. Jimbo knows A&M's chasing Alabama, and Alabama is the gold standard. He has the utmost respect for Nick Saban, but he made it clear, his goal is to beat him because right now that is what everybody's aiming for.
Definitely. And I mean, there is the questions every year at SEC Media Day of who's going to be the team that steps up and actually is able to knock off Alabama. And I think it does hold a little bit more water this year because A&M actually does have a chance and has in the conversation as a team that might be able to pull that off, especially with the kind of defense that returns. It really falls on the offensive line and the quarterbacks, as we've talked plenty of times before. But that was probably one of the other big overarching themes. A couple other just quick hitters too that we'll have in notes. It was interesting. Clark Lee, the new Vanderbilt head coach, actually was a strong mentee to Texas A&M defensive coordinator Mike Elko at Bowling Green, and then he followed him to Wake Forest, and then followed him to Notre Dame, and actually took over as defensive coordinator at Notre Dame after Mike Elko left for the Texas A&M job, and had some great things to say about Mike Elko, and said that some of the things he learned from Mike Elko will be a part of his coaching style forever. And so there'll be a lot of that with Vanderbilt. Nick Saban had some great things to say about Jimbo and said that they're a team, of course, that they're going to look ahead and respect this year. And probably the funniest moment of the day was someone asked Mike Leach about if he was ever in the running for the Tennessee job in years past, plays at Washington State, and he called the Tennessee coaching search a coup d'etat, and said he was not invited to the coup d'etat at that time. So,
well, and how about A&M's own Jimbo Fisher? Let me pull up the quote talking about name, image, likeness, and you tweeted it, Travis, Jimbo saying, "Heck, some people have been doing name, image, likeness for a long time, and they just haven't been telling anybody."
Yeah, exactly. That was a good one.
That got a really good reaction from some folks in the crowd. I could tell that was a hit.
Yeah, for sure. Let me I'm trying something here. We're going to produce on the fly again. We got a little bit of video from the Texas A&M players after it, and so let's hear a little bit from Jimbo Fisher as we close out this podcast, if I can get this one to work. So let's pull up that's photos. Let's see. Again, so Alex, what any other thoughts or
definitely Nick Saban. I mean, his presence at SEC Media Days is obviously really big. He was early in the morning, had a lot of things to say. And then Mike Leach, how about Mike Leach? He went straight to questions about what was it, like 12, 13 seconds in? I mean, it was very fast. So that might have been the quickest filibuster ever. All right,
Jimbo Fisher.
You guys, Saturdays may be a little bit more normal in the fall, and you're not playing in front of full stadiums.
I mean, it's just awesome to be able to get back to practice, but get the fans there, the people, the interaction, and go into Kyle Field with 105,000 people or 110 with cram in there. You put 105 in there last year. We were only supposed to have a quarter. Ain't that what they said? What Dan said. But have that atmosphere, that environment to go back to there, man. It's just, I can't wait to feel it again.
Do you have a timetable when you want to name a quarterback?
Don't set that timetable. I mean, we'll just play it by ear. I've learned not to force those things. You got to let them play it. It could be quick, could be short. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
How special is it for a young guy to have a guy like Isaiah and a guy like Jalen to be good safety nets?
Oh, yeah, you got Isaiah, you got him, you got a chain back there, you got the three receivers. You got Anais in the slots, you got Chase, you got Hez, and then you get Chapman back. Mm-hmm. You get Hobie Demas ahead, you got JP, Devin, Moose, who that's the thing about, don't worry me, you got all your skill guys, because they're going to be, and that's going to let a quarterback's development happen a lot quicker, having all that experience.
Sorry, Coach. Does that change your play calling with a young quarterback? Have you learned over the years? Do you change anything when you call a game?
I thought that, and then Jameis Winston won a Heisman. So, I mean, you got to play it by ear. And DeAndre Francois had a phenomenal year. Won the Orange Bowl that year, and he threw.
Oh, no. Well,
I think Travis needs a phone charger.
yeah, we
Hey.
we lost it there, so that's okay. But anyway, Alex, close us out.
Yeah, I think the point being from that is that A&M obviously is still trying to search for their starting quarterback, but I guess the good news for the Aggies is they've got a ton of key pieces at the skill positions that hopefully, if you're A&M, will help speed things along in the development of either Haynes King or Zach Calzada, whoever ends up winning that job. So yeah, man, it's been a long day, Travis, and I'm sure it's been even longer for you.
Yeah, I'm really ready to sleep. But before we sleep, we're going to produce some great content, some great stories from today. We already have some great stuff up right now from today. And so be sure to check theeagle.com, pick up a paper tomorrow from the Eagle, myaggienation.com for stories and videos. That's all we got. Thanks, Alex.
All right. Well, for Travis Brown, I'm Alex Miller. Be sure to check theeagle.com. We'll see you soon. Bye.